Frankenstein versus the Mummy. Supernatural Smackdown. One night only. The Mad Mangler versus the Putrid Princess. Which one will win? Which one's worse?
I'll get you, you bandaged buffoon!
Supernatural Smackdown. Supernatural Smackdown. Supernatural Smackdown.
Hello, and welcome to Random Movie Time. Today's feature is a comparison video. The idea was suggested by Shannon's friend,
Pat,
and he wanted us to compare Victor Frankenstein with the Tom Cruise version of The Mummy, which came out in 2017, directed by Alex Kurtzman, starring Tom Cruise, Sofia Boutella, and Annabelle Wallis. This tells the story of, I'm not quite sure what this tells the story of. We were so confused. Okay, I think it's about an army guy, and he finds the mummy, and this time the mummy is a woman, and she puts a curse on him and his friends, but he has to get cursed also. Anyway, it's some sort of retelling of the Mummy, and we're going to compare the two movies right now and see which one we think is worse. Well, Shannon, what did you think?
well, okay, so both The Mummy and Victor Frankenstein are awful movies. They're just so terrible. I think what Victor Frankenstein has over the Mummy with Tom Cruise is the acting. The acting is slightly better in Victor Frankenstein, and maybe even more than slightly better. And that's saying a lot, because the acting in Victor Frankenstein wasn't top-notch. This, of course, was directed by Alex Kurtzman, and it was co-written by Alex Kurtzman. Hence, I think all of the subterfuge and all of the ridiculous plot points and the weak script. Man, you know, I'm a huge Star Trek fan, and what Alex Kurtzman has done to Star Trek makes me want to barf all over him. Ha ha! Or put a curse on him! No, I would never do that to anybody. But, the writing in this reboot is absolutely terrible. There are things in it that don't need to be in it. Like, for some reason, they decided to bring Dr. Jekyll, played by Russell Crowe, into the mix. He's part of some secret organization that wants to obtain the mummy Amulet for some reason. I don't really remember why, but it was pretty bad. I mean, and the acting was terrible. I really don't like Tom Cruise. In the early days, he was okay. I didn't mind him that much. But lately, I've found him really awful and just really trying to play up his quote-unquote boyish charm. And then this video, I mean, this film, it's no exception. I mean, he's just, you know, juvenile. The writing and the lines are juvenile. They're trying to be wisecracking, funny military guys, and it's just not happening. It's just not there. Everybody's an asshole in this movie, without exception. I mean, there's no likable characters at all. I mean, I was okay with the Mummy going after and cursing them all, because they kind of deserved it. But whatever, that's another thing. Compared to Victor Frankenstein, which was actually, even though it was terrible and the script was awful, the lines were really awful, Victor Frankenstein at least was kind of linear, and it made sense. You understood why the characters were doing what they were doing and why the characters were saying what they were saying. As opposed to The Mummy, which was nonsense. They're jumping here and there, and it doesn't make sense. This actually, The Mummy did remind me of Edge of Tomorrow in that way, which we have reviewed on a previous video, where it was just nonsensical. It was jumping all over the place and didn't make sense. I'm surprised Alex Kurtzman didn't write that piece of shit. But anyway. So, comparatively, I think that Victor Frankenstein slightly wins out because it has slightly better acting and the script made a little more sense. And Victor Frankenstein also had Charles Dance, which boosts up a notch. So that's my feeling on it. That's how I feel about comparison between the two. But Pat, you know, thanks for this, because we got to watch two of the worst movies ever made. And thanks for you know, helping us suffer through The Mummy. It was just so great. Thanks for that. All right, Tommy. What do you take away from these two? This comparison. What do you take away from this?
Yeah, I was surprised this movie was going to be worse than Victor Frankenstein, but you're right, it absolutely was. At least, as you were saying, Victor Frankenstein has a somewhat coherent plot and, you know, somewhat understandable dialogue and motivations for the characters and stuff like that. Things proceed in a semi-logical fashion, but in this movie, it's like, 5 minutes after watching the movie, I couldn't tell you the plot. I had no idea what the hell just happened. It was, so, like you were saying, it was so all over the place. Apparently this movie, this was put out by Universal, and you know Universal has the rights still to lots of these old classic horror movie characters, like Dracula, like The Mummy, like Frankenstein. Now other companies have the rights to Frankenstein too, because I guess it's gone into the public domain. That's why 20th Century Fox actually put out Victor Frankenstein, not Universal. And I think I, Frankenstein was maybe Warner Brothers or something like that. But anyway, yeah, different companies can make, you know, movies with these characters now, but Universal is still sort of recognized as the home of these characters. And so they were trying to kickstart a new cinematic universe with this movie. Apparently they were going to call it the Dark Universe. And, you know, it reminded me a little bit of, if you watched The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, you know, with Sean Connery, that had, you know, all these classic characters together, like Captain Nemo and the Invisible Man and Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde and all these, and they were sort of like this superhero team up. That's really what it felt like they were trying to do, like introducing Russell Crowe as, you know, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde in this one. And, you know, you had the sense that he was going to team up with Tom Cruise in another movie and, you know, help fight some monsters or whatnot. But this movie did so poorly. It actually looked like it made a profit on paper, like it made about $400 million and it cost $200 million. But then all of the advertising costs factored in. Apparently it was a huge loss, like they lost about $100 million on it or something. So they immediately canceled plans to make any more Dark Universe movies. They did transform one of them into just sort of a standalone movie. They made The Invisible Man a couple years later in 2020 with what's her name, Elizabeth Moss.
Elizabeth Moss, yeah.
Elizabeth Moss. Apparently that's supposed to be a good movie, though we haven't seen it yet. And that that was originally supposed to be part of this Dark Universe, but they decided to distance themselves from that concept and just make that as a standalone movie. And this has been tried a couple of other times, you know, rebooting horror movies from Universal. I believe they did some slightly more successful ones in the 80s, like Cat People was really good, and, you know.
That was good.
Anyway, this movie was like complete and total stinkeroony. Total piece of garbage. Total waste of time.
Yeah.
I do not recommend it, and I'm glad that it stopped them in their tracks with their stupid Dark Universe idea.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it turned Alex Kurtzman's attention towards the Star Trek universe. Well, that was before, I guess. But anyway, at least, you know what? Victor Frankenstein? You can't steal my body parts because they've all been taken out and put in jars. So I'm safe from you.
Good point.
I don't have a brain in my head. Can't you tell?
All right, how many rolls of bandages will you give this one?
Oh my god. Okay, here's the thing. I gave Victor Frankenstein 0 brains in a jar. Okay? I don't know. I'm gonna have to give it a negative. I'm gonna have this is for the first time ever because this is a comparison video and I had no idea that we would be comparing these two movies. So I think today can we make an exception and I'll give this a -2 bandages.
Sounds good. I think that's fair. I think that's completely fair. Yeah, I was going to say 0 because I actually gave Victor Frankenstein half a brain. So I was like, okay, well, that makes it easy. This is worse than that, so this gets 0. But I like your idea. -2 bandages.
I'm giving it 0. I mean, -2 bandages as well. Yeah, That's pretty funny.
It was that bad.
Well, yeah. Thanks, Pat, for...
Yeah, thanks. It was fun watching this stupid movie anyway.
I'm really glad you suggested it, all joking aside, even though, it was torture. But thanks for suggesting that one. And next week, we will have another suggestion from one of our friends. And I guess that's that.
We've got to catch a couple of camels and ride off across the desert into the sunset, I guess. So we'll see you next time on Movie Time.